You had retail sales coming in lower than expected for the month of August, posting the biggest drop in 6 months in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. But you know what? Doesn't seem to matter, at least not on the Dow or the S&P right now. Joining me right now, BGC Partner Senior Advisor Steve Cortes, along with KingView Asset Management CIO Scott Martin. Good to see you both. Steve, I mean, it's like unstoppable.
Right.
You know, sometimes, full disclosure, I get a little worried when I see markets doing that, because I get a little stressed that it's not based on fundamentals. And I was concerned at various times as we watch the Fed print money and the market continue moving higher despite dismal economic growth. I feel as though, however, we are starting to turn the corner in that a lot of the earnings we have seen have been decent. And when you're talking about a 3% growth in wages, it doesn't sound like much, and it's not much, but it's a lot better than it's been. And 3% growth in GDP, these are positives. Is this why the market is higher?
Trish, yes, absolutely. You know, this is, and you're right, this is a market that is confounding the skeptics. I call it the Jefferson's market because it's moving on up, and it has been for quite a long time.
I like that.
Yes, you know, well, but look, here's the reality on the ground, and it's a dangerous world, and there's scary headlines, legitimate reasons to be worried. North Korea, terrorism today. In the UK, I worry about the tax package. I'm worried about Capitol Hill Republicans. There's a lot of reasons to worry, but here's reasons to rejoice, and the stock market is. On the street, on Main Street, not just Wall Street, on Main Street, the growth is back. You mentioned the great earnings for corporations. That's been true for a while. Now we're finally seeing earnings, wages for individuals are starting to trend in the right direction. You're right, they're not where we need to get them, but they're trending correctly. There is a palpable optimism out there right now in the economy. That's not just my opinion. Look at surveys of CEOs, home builders, small business. It matters, and that can become a virtuous cycle that feeds on itself, and I believe it is.
Yeah, you know, look, regardless of what you think of this president, Scott, whether you like him or you don't like him, I realize that he's a somewhat polarizing personality for a lot of folks. The reality is the market's higher. Economic fundamentals are looking better. And if you're in this to make some money, you should be looking at perhaps some of these positive things. I mean, do you feel like there's anything really scary out there that we need to be aware of on the horizon, a la 2008? Or is this a rally that could continue gaining steam with the cherry on top if we get those tax cuts?
Yeah,
right. No, listen,
forgive me, over to Scott and then back to Steve.
Sorry.
I think there's a ton of scary stuff, Trish, but that's what makes a good market. That's what's actually some of the best fuel for a bull market is all the naysayers, all the deniers come out with reasons why stocks won't go up, and that's usually why they do go up. But I'll stay with the Jefferson's theme like Steve brings up here, which is the tax cuts, the tax reform, the regulatory reform, guys, is going to give everybody their piece of the pie, which is what we've been wanting for the middle class for the longest time. And you guys know as well as I do, small businesses are the engine to economic growth. They're the big job creators. If we get these tax cuts as promised, that's going to take the economy into a new phase.
I get a question for you, Scott. Are you talking individual, or are you talking corporate, or are you talking both?
I'm talking both, but specifically corporate, Trish, because some of those pass-throughs, some of those small businesses are the ones that are employing all the Americans, or at least most of them, that want these higher wages.
I think that is where the president's also coming out. I mean, I'd like to get your perspective because you've had that insight into the campaign, Steve. I think he does fundamentally believe in lower taxes, but in terms of the individual side, it's a hard message to sell. And I would once again point out that the top 20% pay 80% of all taxes, and half the country nearly doesn't pay any federal income tax at all. So the people that pay the tax should get the break. Nonetheless, the spin on it coming from the left could derail corporate tax relief.
Right, potentially. But, you know, you can't be pro-jobs and pro-employment and then be anti-employer. And Scott's exactly right. This isn't just about giant corporations generally, by the way, don't actually pay our corporate tax rate. Why? Because they have so many loopholes, because they keep so much of their profits overseas, because they have great corporate tax, legions of lawyers and accountants who attack their corporate tax structures.
It's the small business on Main Street that can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
All perfectly legal and smart and good for their shareholders, but things that aren't available to the guy who owns a dry cleaner or the woman who wants to open a restaurant. So it's important, and Scott's exactly right. We needed both individual because of pass-through and corporate. But here's the president's focus, and he's been laser clear about this, laser focused and clear, when he says if the wealthy don't get a tax cut, we prefer everyone gets a tax cut. But if they don't, that's okay, because they've done great in this slow economy over the last decade. It's middle-income earners, the people who elected
I keep saying
Trump,
this.
who've
We
had
go
such
right
a
back
tough slog.
to my hourglass economy, and that is the analogy I keep putting on this economy right now, where the people on the top, they've done okay. The people on the bottom, they get all kinds of handouts, thanks to Uncle Sam, and we're all paying for it, I guess. But it's the people in the middle that have kids that can't qualify for scholarships, and they can't qualify for Medicaid or any of those things that would be relevant to their bottom line, and so they're really feeling the pinch. I agree, and we need to do something about that. Otherwise, we're in jeopardy of really losing the essence
and Trish,
of who
we saw
are
all
as a
those
middle
policies
class.
fail. We saw them all fail, Trish, during the Obama administration, who once said all we care about it was the middle class. We want to help the middle class. Everything that they put in place actually failed the middle class, and that's why we have that hourglass approach, as you mentioned.
You got it. Spot on. Good to see you guys. Stephen Scott, thank you.